Hello and welcome along to the Punter on Sports Tonight Live. I'm Daniel Freeman and joining me are Russ Wiseman from Sporting Bet and Nigel Seeley, the Bet Butler. For the next hour or so, we're going to be looking at all of the betting in the world of sport and hopefully getting you a few tips along the way. We'll start with you, Russ, and quite a day yesterday for the bookies, what with Italy beating Germany and the big shock at Wimbledon, of course.
Yeah, massive day, Dan, actually, because I mean, this tournament, let's not get it wrong, it's been a wonderful tournament, great football, fantastic betting matches, but generally, from a bookmaking side, we've been on the negative. We haven't really had a good time of it. Most of the predictable results, and I'm sure the butler will have an opinion on this, have been going the punters' way, whether it be late goals, they've tended to be the punters' way. And finally, we got a proper result yesterday, a real strong move on Germany, backed into odds on everywhere, heavy to qualify as well. All of the each way money for the tournament, 4-1 and 7-2 was for Germany, and of course we saw that money go down. So that was terrific news. Rafa Nadal was a little bit different actually, because in play was where all the big money was in that game, and there was fabulous value to be had about this massive underdog. It was a 25-1 chance with us prior to the game, and actually it was a losing match for us, but obviously on the outright book that was the good one. But it's two terrific matches, and great to see a couple of upsets as well.
Nigel, Italy beating Germany at Euro 2012. Mario Balotelli, of course, on the score sheet twice. Did you see that one coming?
Not at all. No, I thought Germany should have been much shorter at the two semi-finals. I thought, you know, the bookies priced up Sporting Bet and all the other bookies priced up exactly the same. And I thought that Germany had to be a lot shorter than Spain against Portugal. I thought the Spain-Portugal game would be much tighter. Got it completely wrong. I mean, the only good thing about this tournament is I've got no money, because if I had any money, I would have done it all. You know, so every single thing that I would have backed. I mean, I would have played the under 2.5 goals markets in lots of these games. The early group games, all the goals would have made me very poor. And the only bet I had was Portugal each way, so it was a bad tournament for me. But I mean, for some reason, all the way through, I just can't have the Italian. Couldn't have the Italians at all. And now going into the final, I've given them a real great chance. So my whole idea and my whole views of the competition have changed on a daily basis. But I mean, interesting what Russ says there about the competition, because there was a few sort of shock results all the way through. But when you get to the latter stages of quarterfinals and semi-finals, then you have really big positions. And obviously the three favourites winning in the big favourites in the quarterfinals. Obviously England didn't get through against Italy, and usually in England games, surprisingly, you don't see enough money as you would do, because people don't want to lose money and see England lose as well. So you would think there'd be the big games, but it's you know, I would have thought some of the bookies would have done quite well. But when the big money comes in these latter stages, you do need a result, and luckily enough, the boys got it yesterday.
Yeah, we'll go on to you now then, Russ. And if Italy do win Euro 2012, how will that affect you at Sporting Bet?
Yeah, huge result actually, Dan. I mean, two teams are backed heavily for this tournament. In the outright pre the tournament kicking off, Spain and Germany, they were the two. They were obvious bets, and as bookmakers, we probably didn't mind that.
Did you really see a lot of Spain?
Yeah, a lot of Spain.
A lot of bookies done their offers over Spain, so I always thought they would probably be not quite a good result for bookies.
I think what you saw was the professional money, the big hitters were probably looking elsewhere. A little bit of value, a little bit of money for Croatia, some for France, and obviously Portugal well backed as well. But you know, when you take the cumulative view of all the 50s and 100s, the guys who've obviously made good money on Spain, they're very loyal punters. They tend not to go against sides who've done the business for them. Them combined with Germany, obviously were kind of the fashionable team. They were both vying for favouritism. Getting those two in the final, in the name your finalists market, would have been pretty disastrous, I've got to say. But now we move into this. Italy, a complete skinner really, not fancied by anyone pre-tournament, actually backed by many people to go out in the qualifying stages. And they just seem to have built this momentum now. And I mean, it's interesting what Nigel says there, because I think a lot of people who were good judges of the game probably decided that Italy weren't a team we wanted to be with. But as we now come to the final game, they look as though they've got the momentum with them. They seem to have a real togetherness. And, you know, who wouldn't fancy them after that? I think, you know, let's look at the first game. Spain and Italy played each other. I think most people would agree that Italy have improved since then and Spain have gone back. So why not Italy in the final? They're going to be value as well, but it'd be a great result for bookmakers.
We'll have more on that in part 2 on the Euro 2012 final. Nigel, if we could just turn to you for a second and look at the spread betting throughout the tournament. And how's that changed?
I mean, to be fair, I think the spread boys have called it pretty much perfect at some of the markets. I mean, the total goal market is around 72 at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably in for 2 goals in the final. I think they opened around about 72, 73. They've got it bang in the middle. I mean, and let's be honest with you, I mean, the total goals, there's not much in it. I mean, it's not a volatile market. The bookings is the one that surprised me. There hasn't hardly been any bookings at all compared to tournaments gone by. I mean, there has been a few in the latter quarter-final stage. I mean, the game the other day, there was 9 bookings in the match, only 8 in 90 minutes. But the red cards is the one for me that shocked me. I mean, I think the referee in this tournament has been superb. Apart from, obviously, the goal that Ukraine scored where John Terry cleared it off the line. Apart from that, I think the referee and the players' attitudes has been very good. I mean, they haven't been diving, they haven't been. So that I think where the bookies, where the old trick was years ago in spread betting was, you'd always knew the first group of matches the referees would be getting the cards out, and you'd go and buy the cards at the beginning and then sell them after the first round. If you'd gone in that strategy, you would have done your money, because they probably dropped 30, 40, probably 30 points on the back of the first game. So realistically, I think what's happened now, the sellers, I think it'll be a good tournament for bookies, for spread bookmakers, but I think all the shrewdies who like to sell markets would have made money on this tournament. They're probably a 10% of their market share. So I think the professional.
And there's a big gang of those punters around, actually. But one thing, great point that Nigel makes there. It's been a really good attitude from the players here. Until you actually saw Spain v Portugal, there wasn't really any niggly game at all. A real nasty niggly game. Wonderful attitude, and obviously it's led to a really kind of easy to predict tournament. But it's been a great opportunity for these sellers, and there are some shrewd ones out there who would have probably.
I do think that the final has a potential to be quite a niggly game, though. I do think this final could be quite fiery. I don't think it's going to be the trend of what you've seen in the competition so far. I think they could turn that trend on its head.
Let's have a look at some of the outrights then for Euro 2012, and we're going to look at the player of the tournament outright first. And one player in particular who's come in leaps and bounds over the past couple of weeks, Andre Pirlo, now backed into odds-on favourite. Nigel, you got a theory about this?
I can't have him. I can't have one. I've been slated by.
You're the only one.
I've been slated by everyone on this one. He's 33 years of age. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's a world class. I mean, Iniesta is absolutely world class. Pirlo, to me, he runs the game, and what he did against England, I think you can get any decent centre midfield player to do that game if you give him that much time. I've got a big view on it. I think the Italians could beat the Spanish in the final, which will come on later too, yeah? Buffon, for me, was the best player yesterday. I thought he was exceptional. He looked solid. He's the most capped goalkeeper. The last goalkeeper to win a major competition for Italy was Dino Zoff, yeah? I think this could go all the way to penalties. I really do, the final. And Buffon is 50-1 to be the player of the tournament. Now, I don't buy this Pirlo being the only one. Apart from the game against England, he pulled the strings in the first half against Spain. When he played Croatia, he tired massively in the second half. I think Buffon at 50s is a decent bet. He's going to retire at the end of the year. I think it could be quite international football. I think it could be a sentimental send-off at 50-1. And I've seen worse bets than that. And I've seen people who vote on this, journalists vote on that, give awards like this for sentimental reasons rather than someone that they think. So I'd take this guy on at 4-5. I really would.
Russ, have Sporting Bet really seen that much money on this market, though? Does it matter who wins it?
It's a small market, Dan, let's be honest about it. It's a trader's market now, like Nigel says. There's people who've got different angles. He obviously has got a theory with this. My theory is obviously that Pirlo, I tend to agree with him, he's probably slightly overrated. He's had a great tournament for me. I'm not going to completely agree with him, but it's a very much a media-led kind of campaign you get with this, and all of a sudden the momentum's with him. People get a lot more credit for him kicking that penalty in such a sublime fashion. It just builds momentum, doesn't it? You get a wave of activity behind one guy, and he's the guy. No question about it. He's not fit to lace Iniesta's boots over his entire career. But to me, the guy that's interesting for me here is Balotelli, because obviously you scored 2 goals in the semi-final. And you catapult yourself onto the world stage even more. And he was terrific in the game. He's obviously probably the only natural centre forward in the whole of the tournament. It has been throughout. If he was to score a brace in this final and win it for Italy, all of a sudden that 18-1 is just gone.
But there's also a chance he gets sent off.
That's right, as well.
But I mean, Zidane won it. They announced Zidane winner of the player of the tournament in the World Cup final, and then he got
the trophy.
Yeah, he got sent off straight after the headbutt. But I mean, one thing for me though is, do you think Pirlo can win this competition if Spain win it? Win the player of the tournament if Spain win the competition?
That's a great point. I think the only way you'd say that is because there's so much media surrounding him. Maybe it's just going to carry.
Well, I don't think. I think you have to win the competition to win it. Well, if you look at the history of this competition, everybody who's won it has won for the winning team every single year. There hasn't been one exception. And I think if you think Pirlo is no value at 4-5, you just might as well back Italy to win the competition at whatever price they are, because it's not bigger than 4-5.
Moving on to a market now where there has been a lot of money, and it's been an interesting one. Top goal scorer, and there's 5 players tied on 3 goals at the moment, and just one of them is in action on Sunday in the final. So just one with the chance to add to that tally, and it's Mario Balotelli, 6-4 favourite.
Nigel and I come from a background where the trading element would love to be a layer of Balotelli 6-4 because we'd rather be on the back of him not scoring. There'll be plenty of people who want to be involved with him though, but it gives you an idea of how incredible the tournament's been when you talk about 3 goals being the leading mark. It speaks for itself, that, doesn't it, though? But I mean, I think a lot of people will be gutted that Ronaldo hasn't won this market because he was the real mover at one stage. A lot of people went with him. He had so many free kick opportunities in the semi-final, never actually hit the target. So he'd be the one that's missed the boat. But Balotelli wouldn't be a bad result. Obviously, scoring 2 last night wasn't really in the price.
What was he before that? Last night, he would have been a big price.
He was about 25, I think.
About 66.
Yeah, 25. Yeah, he was a big price though, certainly. But I mean, look at him now, 6-4. Would you really back him to score a goal? It's going to be a very, very tight and cagey game, isn't it? But I mean, that's 6-4 to scoring time. It's a bookies lane kind of bet, really, for me.
Just quickly, Nigel, Torres at 10-1. A chance that a big game player.
Well,
if he plays,
that's the big. He's odds against to play, isn't he? That's the big thing. I mean, the interesting thing for me, the reason why it's 3. Is winning on his 3s because usually every year in a major competition there's always a dead rubber where there's 6 or 7 goals and one bloke from the fringe of the team comes in and scores 3 or 4 goals. Every last game here was no dead rubber. They were all very much important games. That's why we got a low scoring game. I think we're going to have a dead heat here. I really do. I think the final will be 1 goal. I don't see it, and I would definitely not be backing Balotelli at 6-4 to score in the final. No chance.
Russell, can you explain to us the dead heat scenario? Because at the moment we have got 5 players on 3 goals. What happens if it finishes?
Well, you're going to get paid a fifth or quarter of the odds on all of them. Basically, it's a dead heat rule. I mean, you can't really. Basically, at this point now, it's just a question of is Balotelli going to score or not. You don't back any of those other guys because you're essentially laying Balotelli if you do that. You're basically backing him around about 4 to 9, I think, isn't it? The whole group. But it's a very, it's basically Balotelli to score or not.
I wouldn't rule out Alonso had a brilliant weekend last week, though, didn't he? He scored 2 goals and won a Grand Prix, so he can do he could do anything, that boy. So I wouldn't rule him out. He wouldn't rule him out at 25 to 1. So.
Well, thanks for your time so far, guys. In part 2, we'll be looking at all of the betting on the final as Spain take on Italy at Euro 2012. Hello and welcome back to the Punter on Sports Tonight Live. In this part, we're going to be looking at all the odds as Spain take on Italy in the Euro 2012 final. Nigel, what do you reckon to this market in terms of the outright betting in 90 minutes? Can you see a winner in 90 minutes?
Personally, no, I can't. I think it's going to go all the way to an extra time and a penalty shootout, maybe. I think what you've seen as the competition gets to this level, the matches become a lot tighter. I mean, you wait all that time for a 0-0 like buses and then 2 of them come along straight away. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be very close. I think 1 goal will win it. And I don't necessarily think it will come in the 90 minutes. I think the thing is with these I always look at these games, and if you ask everybody in the street, I mean, when England played Italy, you've done a straw pile of 100 people, 75% of people will tell you it would be a draw, but that's always the biggest price because nobody ever backs it. And I think the same thing here in this final. I think if you went round London and you asked those people in the street, what do you think will happen in the 90 minutes? I think they'll come back and say the draw, but no one ever backs the draw, and it's always a great result for bookmakers. So I'd be all over the draw here. I certainly, on the betting exchanges, or if I was in Sporting Bet's position as a bookmaker, I'd definitely go out to lay Spain. I'd want to lay Spain in 90 minutes. I think it's a great lay.
Let's have a look at the match odds then in a bit more detail. Spain 11-10, the draw 9-4.
Big price of draw. Man.
Italy, the outsiders at 3-1. Russ.
Well, I mean, anybody who's been involved in the betting game, Dan, will be able to price this game up. It's a naturally easy game to price up, and there's nothing ever particularly remarkable about it. 11-10 Spain. One of the reasons we can't really push Spain out anymore, and I definitely agree with Nigel on this, is that we want to get Spain in. But like I said, so many bookmakers have got them for so much now in the anti-post book. Some real lumpy money, and obviously we've already got an inbuilt position. We don't need any more actually in the game. For me, obviously at these kind of prices, 11-10 to 3-1. I'd prefer to be with Italy, but the bet has to be the draw.
For the punter, 9-4.
What I would always say in this situation, and Nigel and I both got a lot of experience in this, It's very difficult for me to come to a scenario where the draw won't trade shorter than 9-4. How can it not trade shorter? I think after 5 or 6 minutes of the game, when we see a negative tactical pattern, Spain have been very negative so far. It's just a natural thing to do for punters to say, do you know what, this looks like it could be a tight one. And it'll be 7-4 and 13-8. Before you know it, you've already got the best bet with 9-4. This is clearly the right bet to do. It may not be a draw at the end. I think a goal will sell it, but it's the correct bet at this stage, definitely.
You've only got to look at the last World Cup final. The last World Cup final when Holland played Spain, Spain got all this. Everyone said they're playing superb football. They won it messy. They won it in extra time. They got the goal. The draw, 0-0. After 10 minutes, you knew that game was going to be a draw. Exactly Ross's point. The draw will be backed, and it will be a perfectly good result for bookmakers. They want the draw. I mean, I cannot believe this is on a level to me as when England played Italy. I think that there's nothing to split the two sort of sides, and I just believe that 9-4. I mean, that's the kind of price you see in a box standard Premier League game. You know, I was expecting to be like 2-1, maybe even some firms might go 9-5, 15-8, that kind of price. 9-4 the draw to me is simply crying out to be back.
Well, we fancy the draw here in the studio, and you probably like the look of that yourselves. Let's have a look at the method of victory market then, bringing in extra time and penalties. Spain are 7-1 to win in extra time, 8s to win on penalties. Italy 11-1 in extra time, and also 8s on penalties. What can we take from this?
Well, the one
Russ?
thing I just, as a punter myself, the one thing I believe is that it's incredible how quick in tight battles where one mistake essentially can win or lose the game. It's amazing when a game gets to extra time how quick the clock gets gobbled up. It absolutely gets devoured. Time gets wasted. They never really add on anything. It's maybe a minute at the most, but very little football is ever played in extra time. And I think I think that's the mug bet myself. To back a team to win in extra time, you've got to go with the penalty route if you think it's going to be that way.
Nigel, just one Euro final has gone to penalties in the history of the competition. That was in 1976 when the Czechs beat West Germany.
Well, you've only got to look at the trends. I mean, the trends of football matches now, when they go to 90 minutes, it's virtually a penalty shootout. There's very rarely games are won in extra time, and you can see by the way bookies price up now, 7-1 are in extra time, or 8-1 are really 90 in penalty shootout. I mean, in our day, talking about spread betting, it was the best bet of all time. You used to sell the goals in extra time at 1.2, 1.3. Now they're about 0.6, 0.7.
Right.
You know, they've come down by half a goal, and now there's no value to do that. But once you get to extra time, you're a 2-on shot to go to penalty shootouts.
It's generally accepted that it's going to be that way.
Yeah.
The team's playing that.
Well, they tried to get rid of the golden goal for that, to make extra time more open, and it hasn't worked. I mean, the extra time now is essentially golden goal. If you score one goal in extra time, you win it. There's no doubt about it. And the worst case scenario is one goal. But I mean, I think the nature of the game. I mean, you talk about European Cup finals. There has been a lot of draws. I mean, I just think that. You could be on for a long night here. 8-11 combined works out 7-2. The match go to a penalty shootout. Not for me. I wouldn't bet it. I'd much rather the game to be a draw in 90 minutes and 9-4 than go for the 7-2 penalties.
Let's have a look at the correct goals, the correct score market now, and maybe 0-0, 1-1 if we're looking at here. Of course, the game between the two in the group stage did finish as a 1-1 draw, 6-1. So historically, we don't have to look that far back to see, how the teams match up.
Well, we're in danger of being very negative here, but we've got to give our opinion the way we've seen it, and obviously the experience of seeing tournaments like this in the past. I actually think Nigel is bang on. One goal will probably settle it. I mean, it's going to be extremely hard to break down. And plus the fact there's such a demoralisation from a team when they go 1-0 down. They almost essentially give up in these games when that happens. But 1-1, 6-1, I'd be a layer of that. I just don't think it'll be that way. I think the 0-0 or the 1-0 scorelines are the likely ones. It would be wonderful for the game if there was an early goal, just in terms of the spectacle and the trading side of it. But I just see that the standard bargains here, the 0-0 and the 1-0s are the way to go, actually.
Nigel, 7 teams have won by just one goal since the tournament started in 1960. So it tells you that there's not a lot between these two sides once they get to.
Well, it shouldn't be. I mean, I think this is arguably the toughest competition to win other than the World Cup. So when you get to the final, you expect
the World Cup.
I think it's much tougher. Yeah, as I'm saying, I think this is the toughest competition in Europe in world football to win. So I think once you get to the final, you do expect it to be tight games. And again, I mean, we're not making a great picture and saying it's going to be a 3-2 massive ready rate. I think 0-0, 6-1 or 1-0 either side. I mean, on the under and over markets, instead of perhaps playing the under 2.5 goal, which a lot of people will do and will be short, probably play the under 1.5 goal, because I can only see one goal in it.
And Russ, only 3 teams have actually come from behind to win a final as well. Again, so once you get your nose in front, and I presume in-play betting as well would tell you to lump on the team that get the goal.
I mean, most pro punters these days, Dan, will focus on the team with 1 goal up. It's extremely difficult in any level of the game to come back from a goal down, especially this. We've already know it's an attritional wear and tear tournament. This, one mistake, one bit of genius will probably make it. I don't see a side coming back from behind.
It's more important.
It'll be a big double-figure price as soon as the team goes 1-0 down.
It's much more important, though, isn't it, for Italy to not go fall behind. I think if Spain go 1-0 up, they have the game and they have the confidence and the swagger, whereas Italian heads could go.
Keep the ball.
Because they've gone ahead in every game.
I think it's much more important. I mean, if Italy go 1-0 up, then I still think Spain have enough to come back. Then you're in for a cracking final. But I think if Spain go 1-0 up, I think the Italian heads could go, and it's virtually impossible for Italy to come back. They have to keep it tight or go 1-0 up themselves.
Well, Nigel's mentioned that he quite likes the sound of under 1.5 goals for this final. Let's have a look at the market for that, and it's 11-8 under 1.5 goals, under 2.5 goals, 5-2 on 11-8. Nigel, would you be taking?
It's short though, isn't it? I mean, it is very short. I mean, you'd be looking at an average Premier League game. You're looking around 2-1, sort of maybe 15-8 to 9-4, that kind of price. So their bookies are not giving anything away. I mean, Russ is absolutely right. This is the European Champions final. I mean, you could be the head of football, sit there and trade this and say, I'm the head of football, I'm going to make 100 grand because I'm so good. Honestly, games like this, my boy could do it. He's 7. I'm not being funny.
You press a button,
and the prices are what they are, and have a go what you want to do. There's no real skill in trading this game for football, unless there's sending offs going away and things are going all over the place. But that does look short, but you can only be that way.
And these are standard industry prices, really, Dan, that we're talking about here. And everyone is. It's a financial market, a football match of this kind. I mean, there'd be billions traded literally across the world. When you look at it in that respect, we're telling people what we believe is going to happen here. We're saying it's going to be 1-0, 0-0, 1-1, 2-5. If anybody wants to take 2-5, about under 2.5, which is a standard usually pick and market if it's a Premier League game. It tells you how we're going to see the game, and they're essentially bookmakers, my firm included, trying to push you into going over.
The two shortest prices under 2.5 goal markets in this competition were 4-9 previous to this, which was Spain against Portugal, and 1-2 England against Italy, when the bookies took a view that it would be 0-0 and both games ended 0-0. And this is now the shortest price, so that's to tell you that you're not going to get many goals in this game.
Such fine margins as well. I had under 1.5 for Spain-France last weekend, and it took a dodgy penalty in the last minute to make it 2 as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's people last night. I was watching the game with some real decent punters last night, and the yelps of pain when that penalty was given last night because they're under 2.5. These are huge moments in games, and I think that's why we enjoy the punting fraternity so much. It really does matter. But that 2.5 market was some heavy money traded on that penalty last night, for example, really did swing things.
Got to move on to the both teams to score market now, and we're thinking that if there's only 1 goal in it, then no might be the answer.
Yeah, again, it's very, very short. I mean, this is the punters love this market. This is the new young, trendy bet that they do. When we were in the game, Sporting Bet probably have guys playing this market yes all the time. There's some games you want to be last game of the season, second game of the season, you don't want to be seeing the yeses coming through on your coupon. But on if you get a load of people backing yes here, you're rubbing your hands with glee. You can't really make a case at 4-7. Again, I think everything is factored into the price of the game in the under 2.5 goal markets, which says that bookies are saying there's not going to be many goals in it. And 4-7, I can't see both teams scoring this game, no.
Russ, you'd be happy to see money coming in at 13-10 then?
Yeah, fine. I mean, Dan, like Nigel says, that this is such a huge financial market. This is the equivalent of trading shares on Microsoft, for God's sake. I mean, there's no way of anyone having an edge or knowing anything we don't already know. Obviously, again, we're trying to push people, guide them into backing the overs. That's the yes market here, both teams to score. I think it's unlikely personally, but it'd be a great spectacle if they did. But again, it's a bookmaker's bet. The unders. And the no score, not both to score are the way we want people to go, I think.
Finally, just in this part, to look at to lift the trophy odds, and that of course brings into play extra time penalties, so shorter prices than the outright match odds. Italy 6-4 here, but of course Spain 15-8 favourites. Nigel.
Yeah. I mean, Italy there 6-4. I mean, if I was going to have a bet, I'd probably back Italy to qualify to win the competition 6-4 rather than anything else. So I personally think that. I think Spain are worth taking on. I really, really do. And if I had to make a case in this game, I'd go. I mean, if you come down and you knew nothing about football and watched these two teams in the knockout stages, and you said to price it up, you would probably turn around and say Italy's slight favourites or maybe pick them. this Spanish side is being priced up on tradition and history, and I just think Italy at 6-4 maybe are the value bet.
Russ, the Italians like nothing more than a bit of a scandal back home to get them going ahead of a big tournament. And they had one, didn't they, quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but you look at the way that they've come together as a team. I mean, somebody mentioned to me they remind them very much of the New York Giants team who won the Super Bowl a few years ago. Obviously, they won this year, but this was a limited team who just came together, started believing in each other, and that's what these Italians look like they've done. They're the team with the momentum. I mean, most of the people who fancy Spain are already on Spain. I just don't see a flood of money now, 8-15. I think people who've already backed Spain are going to go that way. Maybe people who've done their money on Germany will try and buy it back and spend at 15 away on, but they're more than welcome to do that. I think it's a much tighter game than the market suggests. I mean, like I said, I'd love to lay them at 11-10 in the 90 minutes, and the same here. If people want to wade in at 8-15 on down, I mean, Italy look every bit as good a team. It's basically a coin flip for me. Maybe a little bit more talent than the Spanish team, but they were very negative for long periods against Portugal.
The halfway stage then, that's the end of part 2. In part 3, we'll be looking ahead to all of the action at Wimbledon. Hello and welcome back to the Punter on Sports Tonight Live. We've already looked at the Euro 2012 final betting. Now we're going to look at all the betting at Wimbledon at the moment. And Russ, Sporting Bet, have you taken a lot of money on Wimbledon this year? What with the Euros and everything else going on?
Big tournament, Dan. I mean, tennis generally across Europe, big trading sport. Heavy money around it. Second only to football, so serious stuff. But this Wimbledon obviously takes it to a new level. You get a recreational punter involved, which obviously lends itself to highly active markets. Each firm obviously jostles for position, obviously tries to get the most business in. We've got a particularly aggressive tennis trader, Dominic Wooland, who sets his stall out. Nigel will know him, it goes back a long time. Not afraid of putting up arbitrages or choice prices. And because of that, we tend to build up some big positions. He'll admit it himself, called the Nadal game wrong, as I mentioned at the start of the show, and would you believe that was a losing match for us? But, you know, there's still a long way to go. We're still, I believe, we're top price about 7 of the front 11 in the men's at the moment, so we're trying to attract business. But it's pretty much about whether you think Djokovic is going to win this thing now or not, around about the even money mark. I mean, as you see there, this is the market, and then obviously, do you think Murray can sort of battle his way through? Obviously, the draw's opened up for him, but that is the key point to this. You've got to work out the draw.
And we're going to look at the outright winner in the men's draw then. And Nigel, anything you fancy? What stands out for you in the betting at the moment?
Well, I've liked Djokovic from the start. I mean, people have tipped up Nadal. He's obviously gone now, but I think Federer at 3-1 is no value. I think he might be in a bit of value at 5s or 6s. But Djokovic for me has got the easiest draw. He's going to be 100-1 on, 50-1 on, all the way through to the quarterfinals. It's basically whether he beats Federer and then beats whoever he plays in the final. I think you could have a shock finalist in the bottom half. Obviously, Nadal's gone, but I don't think Murray will get through. I really don't. I think 11-2 Murray. He's still got a very tough. He's got some very dangerous flows. He's got Cilic in the quarterfinals. Massive doubt there. I think Tsonga at 12-1. He's the one that all the tennis shrewies are looking at the bottom half of the draw, who comes out some value to the final. But I think Djokovic is the man to beat. And I think if you're going for an each way bet, Tsonga he was 12-1 this morning, now into 11. I think even at 11 he represents a bit of value. So I don't fancy Federer. I don't think he's got the game. He's obviously got the game, but I don't think he's got the legs anymore to win a Wimbledon title. And I think Djokovic will have too much for him.
Well, I'm delighted to say we're joined by a couple of Skypers for this part, and I'd like to introduce Sean Calvert from betting.betfair.com. Sean, I'm sure you've been listening to the two guys in the studio at the moment, and where do you think the best price might lie at the moment for an outright winner in the men's draw?
Yes, evening guys. Well, I was actually, my tip for Betfair was actually Tsonga at the start. I was lucky enough to get on pretty big at a price of just over 43-1. So I'm feeling pretty confident at the moment, I have to say. I like Tsonga's chances. I said in my preview at the start of the tournament, I don't fancy Murray any way, shape or form. I don't think that's changed. Obviously, his route may or may not be slightly better now that Nadal's out, but like Nigel said, there's some very difficult matches for him to get through first.
If you work out his price though all the way through, in matches he plays, I mean, he's got obviously Query, or he'll beat Raonic, who's a big dangerous player. I think he'll beat Baghdadis. I think you take it as a certainty. Then after that he plays Cilic, then possibly Tsonga. I mean, you work out, he's got to be about a 12 to 1 shot if you worked out his prices. He's never 11 to 2. He can never be any value to me at that price, surely. I mean, you agree with me, but people taking that price are mad, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, another one of my tips at the start was to lay Murray to win that particular quarter at just over even money. I still stand by that. I think Cilic has got a decent chance of beating him. Querrey, I think Murray would beat him, but I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's going to be Cilic versus Murray. And I think Cilic has got a decent shot in that, yeah.
Moving on to our other Skyper in this part, and it's Mark Blair, a tennis expert. Delighted that you could join us, Mark, and having heard what we've had to say so far, it could well open up for Andy Murray, couldn't it, this men's draw, but we're not too sure.
Yeah, evening chaps.
Hi guys.
Yeah, it's got very exciting now that Nadal's gone out. You know, all of the top seeds are going to be licking their lips. I wouldn't write off Federer. I mean, just looking, he's just lost the first set, but if he can get out of this match, I think on his day he's still better than anyone else, especially on grass. So I'm still, you know, I think Federer. There's still some value in Federer as long as he can get out of this match.
I mean, the last time Federer played Benito, he actually beat him, didn't he, Benito, in the hard courts? I mean, he beat him in 3 tough sets. I think Federer's beatable because I just don't. When you get him a long game now, I don't think he's got the legs anymore for a long game. I think he's got to win games in straights. And I think going into the latter stages, I just can't see him. I think he can. If he's got to get out early and win his straight sets, I think he's vulnerable. I really do. I know he's got the form and I know he's got the game to win it in a canter if he wants to. But in long games, I'm taking him on.
Yeah, obviously the long game is not going to benefit him, but I don't think these matches on grass are going to take it out of him like they would do in Australia, where it's very hot, or on clay, where he's always going to, you know, have that matchup disadvantage to Nadal or even Djokovic nowadays.
Looking at the outright betting next for the women's draw, and Russ, is it a market where you've seen much money at Sporting Bet?
Yeah, good money for Kvitova. I know Nigel tipped her last. I think about 16 to 1 to last year.
Last year, yeah.
You definitely back it. Azarenka, we can't have it. We're trying to get Azarenka. She's clearly not the place she was earlier in the season. The 15 to 2 is still out there, but we're trying to get her. Funny enough, Sharapova does show signs of vulnerability, although again, she's a lady that you'd probably want to be with her just because she's such an incredible character. And it's the same for Serena. 2 of the most competitive people you could ever want to be with from a betting point of view over the last dozen years. These two, aren't they? Williams and Sharapova. So you're trying to find somebody from the bottom end of the draw, and it's tricky because I mean, Clijsters is obviously looking to quit at the end of the year, but it's a fantastically interesting punting tournament, this one. And I do like the look of it. I think at the moment Kvitova is probably a little bit of value around about a 5-6 to 1 mark.
Let's head back to Sean then and see what he makes of this. Sean, we've got the finalists from last year in the top 3 of the betting as it stands at the moment. Would you be thinking Kvitova to regain her title or Sharapova to put right last year's wrongs?
I think it's hard to look past Sharapova. Personally, the women's draw this year, I've really just gone for some absolute rank outsiders. Players like Peng at just stupid prices. But that's basically because I think Sharapova is going to win, but I don't think she's a particularly good value to win it.
Yeah, I think you're right doing that strategy. I mean, how I used to do these things when I was working for the spread firms, I used to rate every player as a rating of 100, and then you would be able to perm how one player would be against any other player, and we had a system that worked that out. And the key to all these things is adjusting your rating as the tournament goes on. I remember a guy called Philippe de Wolf got to the final of the French Open who had a rating of about 6, but when he got to the final he was rated about 50. You just move them up and up and up. And I think Serena Williams is very, very interesting here because arguably on her game, she's got the game to win this very easily. And how you rated her at the start of the competition, if she goes into week 2, you have to have a massive rebase on Serena because she's showing some fitness and all that. And I wouldn't rule out Serena. I think Venus Williams has finished as far as the force in the women's game. But I think Serena could be some bit of value here in the second week if she's still around.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, like I said, I went for the rank outsiders. Sharapova is the one I fancy of the big.
We all do that, Sean. We all do that, mate.
Make yourself open for that one, Sean.
Sorry. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I went for some absolute real big value shots, and on the hope that it wouldn't be Serena and Sharapova.
Mark, if we could bring you back from what you've seen from the women's draw so far, what takes your fancy?
Yeah, I agree with Nigel here. I'm surprised that Serena's a bigger price than Sharapova, and I guess that comes from the fact that Serena went out early at the French. But Serena, on her day, is a much better player than Maria, and her serve never really falters like Maria's does. Maria, she's prone to a lot of double faults, and Serena beat Maria Sharapova quite convincingly in, I think it was Rome before the French Open, and I think she's got a big advantage over her. So yeah, I think Serena above 3-1. I would be taking that all day long.
Well, the big match of the weekend for the Brits, of course, sees Andy Murray take on Marcos Baghdatis in his third round tie. Russ, do you fancy that the fact that, of course, England are out of the Euros and everything is on Andy Murray now, everyone's watching him, aren't they?
Well, they are, Dan, no doubt about it. But I mean, and it's actually a great betting match because Baghdatis is such a huge character, great support. Like Tsonga, the crowds tend to like Baghdatis and get behind him. But 12 on 11-2, that gives you an idea of how the market really is. A few years ago, Baghdatis would be a proper runner in this, but he's really diminished in the last few seasons. I mean, you start looking at set betting, don't you? You can't really start wading into Murray at 10 on, 12 on. You start looking at the 3-0 and the 3-1, and he is vulnerable to lose the odd set. Maybe that's a bit of a bargain, but it's the in-play betting that might get something going here if Baghdatis can get some momentum and kick off the game in some sort of style.
Well, Baghdatis did beat Murray in 2006 at Wimbledon, but of course that was a long time ago. Let's have a look at the set betting now and see what we fancy for a bit of a whitewash for Andy Murray. 3 sets to love is 4-1, 3-1, 13-5, and 3-2 is 17-2. Nigel, is there value to be had in this? Do you fancy?
Well, I think obviously the 3-0 here is obviously a misprint. I think it must be 4-1 on rather than 4-1 against. I think it'd be 4-1 on there. I mean, I think Murray will win easy. I really do. I think Baghdatis is not the force he was. I don't think he's always had a problem with fitness. His problems has always been about fitness, and I think now Murray's on a different level to what they were in 2006. The only thing I would say is that Murray is vulnerable to throw in a couple of games, and he's vulnerable to losing matches, but then he comes back and wins sets 6-0, 6-1. He's very convincing like that. But if you're going to play Baghdatis, I look at the handicap market. I reckon the bookies will give Baghdatis around about an 8-game start, 7.5-game start. That may be a little bit of value. Get with Baghdatis on that, because I don't think Murray will win by 6-love, 6-love, 6-love against Baghdatis, but he could win 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, which will be 6. So the difference between the two. So I think if you're going to go for Baghdatis and you do fancy him to do quite well, play him on a handicap market rather than the match. Murray will win. No, there's no doubt about it. Murray will win this game.
Let's head back to Sean on the Skype wall. And Baghdatis, a Wimbledon semi-finalist back in 2006 when he did last beat Andy Murray, but those days seem long gone.
They do indeed, yeah. Marcos is like the guy said, he's really sliding down the rankings. He's not actually beaten a top 10 player since he beat Murray in Rotterdam over a year ago. He's hardly won a match this season. The only thing you could say in his favour, he's got Miles McLagan in his camp, who's Murray's former coach. Maybe a little bit of inside information there, but what is it that we don't already know about Murray's game anyway? Hard to make a case for Marcos on the form that he's shown this year so far.
And Mark, you a big Andy Murray fan yourself, both on and off court. People have their differing opinions about him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I like him more than the average Brit. He doesn't do himself any favours in some respects, but he's by far the most talented player we've ever had. Baghdatis, he's a likeable chap, but I think he only puts his first serve into play about 55% of the time, and that is going to cause him some real problems against Murray, who I think this should be a walk in the park for Murray. Having faced Karlovic in their last round, he's going to take the chance to really put on a show on centre court, I think.
Just to clarify, Murray 4-6 to win the match in straight sets, 3-love. Sean and Mark, if you can stay with us for part 4, where we're going to look at some more matches in depth, that'd be fantastic. As I say, we're going to be still on Wimbledon when we get back, and also some Tour de France betting. Hello and welcome back to part 4 of the Punter here on Sports Tonight Live. In this part we're going to be checking out a couple of Wimbledon matches in more depth, and we're also going to be looking at the Tour de France as well. We're going to kick off by looking at Brian Baker against Benoit Paire in the 3rd round of Wimbledon. And Russ, these sort of matches, do you see much interest?
I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah, well, I mean, genuinely here, Dan, I mean, the interesting thing about this is, because as I said before, our tennis trader is extremely aggressive with these kind of markets. And I mean, this is the kind of game, actually, Baker versus Paire, where you're really going to get a big view. I mean, Nigel's having a giggle here, because obviously we don't really know an enormous amount of these players, but they've obviously done something to qualify for the 3rd round. But you know, for me, it's not really a step-in match. I'm sure Nigel will probably tell us who's got the big serve and who's the volley guy here.
Let's go to someone who does. Sean Calvert from betting.betfair.com. We see Baker is odds-on favourite to win this. Sean, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the guys are having a bit of a chuckle about it there in the studio, because this is one of those matches that it's just horrible to price up, to be honest. You've got Brian Baker, who's a real talented guy. He's had a nightmare with injuries over the last sort of 5 years. He's had to battle his way back. He's had to qualify. He wasn't given a wild card. He's only played, I think, a dozen matches on grass in his life, and he's playing against Benoit Paire, who's just a complete nutcase. You've got like he's what is he, 6'4", 6'5", beanpole French guy, big serve, loves his trick shots. There's something going around on YouTube at the moment where he just played a hot dog through his legs against Ebden just for a laugh. He's totally unpredictable. Hard match to call. I don't want to call it.
Baker had a good result, didn't he? Baker had was it the last round? He won very convincingly against someone in the last round. I saw his.
Neiman.
Yeah, Neiman. He won. Did he win a set 6-love in that game, or he won very?
He did, yeah. First set 6-love.
I think he did win 1-6-love.
Yeah. So I think what's happened here is that bookies have seen that result and seen how impressive it was, and not really knowing much about the two players, they've gone quite short, 8-15. If you looked at the form and you looked at the players, you know, and what Sean was saying there about injuries and about the player hasn't been around for long, only played 12 games from grass, but all the bookies have seen is he's beat Neiman and 6-love in a very convincing result. And probably, just by hearing this conversation, knowing nothing about the two, I'll be backing the guy 11-8.
Mark, you know a bit more about this? Do you think it's priced up fair enough with Baker the 15-8 on favourite?
I think there's a lot of truth in what Nigel just said. Baker won, you know, unbelievably convincingly against Neiman, and you know he's not a grass court player. The tennis world has fallen in love with Baker a bit because of this, you know, romantic story. He's come back from injury. This is going to be his 5th game at Wimbledon because he had to qualify. And Benoit Paire, I think he's a more talented grass court player. Got a very big serve, which you don't normally associate with Frenchmen. And beating Dolgopolov 3-0 in the last round, you know, tells me a lot about this guy's talent. At odds against, I'm going to be with Benoit Paire here.
Moving on, and a match involving two players that we know a bit more about here in the studio. David Ferrer against Andy Roddick. Nigel, you want to say something?
Well, no, I'm just hoping he doesn't go pear-shaped for us on that one. But there you go. Anyway, I was just had to get the gag in. I mean, I looked at these prices today. I was doing a newsletter for the weekend's previewing the Wimbledon prices. And I looked at these prices today and I couldn't believe the prices. I mean, Roddick was 2-1 with a bookmaker. I know he hasn't had the best of seasons. I know Ferrer is seeded, what, is he 6 or 5, or he's under 5 in the world. He's a quality player. I know, but one of them 6'4", got a massive serve. The other guy is like 5'6", 5'7". I always was told as a tennis trader, always get with a big guy over a little guy at Wimbledon. And I'm going to go with that strategy today. I know Roddick's not playing well, but you would never have seen 2-1, 7-4 Roddick a year ago, 2 years ago against David Ferrer in this game.
I think anyone who saw Roddick at Queen's would be disturbed by this though, because he seemed to have lost a lot of the power from his game. He just seemed to have come back a step, and eventually, do you just eventually run out of those times? However, Roddick, you know, at Wimbledon, he may just have that one mighty effort left in him. The last
person who said that to me was someone opposing Goran Ivanisevic the year he won it. So
let's bring in Sean at this stage. And Sean, it's been a bit of a rough ride for Andy Roddick at the moment, and he needed 5 sets to beat, of course, Jamie Ward.
Did he?
Marty Fish.
Marty Fish, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Roddick, he's been on the slide for a long time now. A lot of injuries. The serve isn't what it used to be. The forehand is not really a weapon. The backhand is little more than a slice. This is a horrible match. I mean, I fancy Ferrer to win, but I don't fancy him at 1.44 or whatever he is. I think this is going to be one to trade in play for me. I'm on Ferrer's side. Don't like the prices, but I don't like this 2012 Andy Roddick. I don't trust him.
I tell you the angle here, Sean. Definitely get with Roddick on the game handicap, because if he does win a set or lose a set, there's always 7-6, 7-5. So there's very, very small margin on the handicap. So when you get with a player like Roddick, plus a 4.5 or 5 game start, it's tremendous value.
Mark, what do you fancy in this match then? It's a genuine game, isn't it? Two big players coming head to head.
Yeah, you got two big names, and it's funny because they both played a tournament the week before Wimbledon, which, you know, the big players wouldn't normally do because they expect to go far in Wimbledon. They both won their tournaments, and yeah, I think if you are going to be backing David Ferrer here, I think you should probably wait until the popular money comes for Roddick, who, you know, in the years gone by, he's been the punter's friend. He very rarely lets the punter down when he's favourite. But yeah, as the guys have said, his first serve, which, you know, he's always depended on that first serve, is not the weapon it was, and he's not getting it in as much as he used to. So Ferrer is definitely my pick, but I'm going to wait to see where the market ends up.
Staying with you, Mark, Philip Kohlschreiber against Lucas Russell, of course, who beat Rafa Nadal last night. Which way do you see this one going?
Wow, I can't, you know, I watched it last night, like I'm sure we all did. I'm surprised that Russell is the price he is. Normally in these situations, the market completely overreacts, and you see Russell maybe more as a favourite. I don't know, I'm hard pressed to give an opinion here. All of my models, all of my stats would point to Kohlschreiber, but after last night's performance, you know, I wouldn't be jumping at the chance to back him. Saying that...
Yep. Sean, if I could bring Sean in at this stage, your thoughts on this match. Russell, do you think, has he got it in him to go another round at Wimbledon?
I don't think he's going to play like that again. I don't think he can. I don't think that's possible. I think this is going to be a case of after the Lord Mayor's show for Lucas Russell, to be honest. He's always had those weapons in his locker: the big serve, the big forehand, the big backhand. But 9 times out of 10, they don't go anywhere near the court. Last night, they all flew in pretty much. I just don't see him doing it again against Kohlschreiber, to be honest.
Thanks to both Mark and Sean for joining us to talk about Wimbledon. We're going to finish by looking at the Tour de France, which gets underway this weekend. And Russell, is it a market you see a fair bit of money coming in on?
You do see a lot of money on this, actually. It tends to be after day one, the prologue and the time trial, where people get a view, actually. Funny enough, even though it's on the very first stage, you do get a feeling straight away of what kind of condition people are in from that time trial, and you see who's actually in good shape and who isn't. This is a wonderful market this year, obviously from UK perspective, because Bradley Wiggins has been gearing his entire season around this. 11-8 Feb. We're shorter than that, actually. We're 13-10. We're 15-8 Cadell Evans as well. We're basically saying it's a pick-up between the two of them, and after that it's 25 bar. And if you look at the list of cast of characters there, like Dennis Menchov, well, there's no way he can possibly win it. He's a decent climber, but he can never win a Tour de France.
A quick word, Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, I know nothing really very little about the Tour de France, but people I know tell me Bradley Wiggins will win it. The reason I think there's a better alternative is back Bradley Wiggins to win the Sports Personality of the Year at about a 10-1 shot. Because if he wins this and he does win in the Olympic Games, if you saw what happened to Cavendish last year just by winning I think that's my play.
Well, thank you very much to Nigel Seeley and Russ Wiseman. That's about all we've got time for now on The Punter. But coming up next, Darren Lewis, Perry Groves and Mina Rizuki.